Welcome to the Cybersecurity Simplified podcast, where we take the mystery out of today's top security threats and solutions. Living on the edge means taking on risk, and that's exactly what today's special guest has done when it comes to network security. Instead of accepting the risks, he has faced them head on to make living and working on the network edge safer for all of us. Stay tuned in this special edition of Cybersecurity Simplified. We will meet John Peterson, the inventor of the ZTEdge Zero Trust security platform. Hi, I'm your co-host, Susanna Song.
And I'm co-host David Barton.
Hi, David. Here we go for our third episode around prevention. We touched on OPS in our previous episode. And now, as we promised, we have John Peterson, the Chief Product Officer at Ericom and creator of ZTEdge, which is the Zero Trust security platform that Highwire uses for the OPS solution. Here on our podcast to dive a little deeper into the whole concept of secure cloud area network. So thank you, JP or John Peterson. Which do you prefer to go by?
Call me JP. All my friends call me JP, so call me JP.
All right. JP, first question. What was the problem you were solving with your Zero Trust security platform? Take us back.
Yeah, so really what the problem I was trying to solve, and coincidentally, this was before COVID actually happened, but I was trying to solve a problem of connectivity for the remote workforce. And when COVID actually hit, it just made what I was working on that much more important. But it was really about trying to connect users to applications versus the old model that we have had, which is connecting devices to networks. So I sought out to solve the problem of weaknesses in VPN technology, and started off by building zero trust network access technology. And then as I started to do that, and as COVID started to become a big problem, I started adding more to it. And that kind of evolved what I was working on, the zero trust network access piece of it, to a full stack cloud security offering, which I've kind of coined the term cloud area networking. So with cloud area networking, it's really about taking all of the security controls that you used to have on a local area network, or maybe a wide area network, and bringing that into one cloud that everything connects to. And if everything connects to this one cloud, be it users working from home, users working from a corporate office, or maybe servers sitting in a data center, if they can all connect to this cloud infrastructure, and I'll call it infrastructure because it's not just a cloud located in one point of presence in the world, it's a cloud infrastructure with presence in 40 plus POPs around the world. But if I can connect these devices to the closest POP to them and make it such that they all appear to be on the same local area network, like old school way of doing networking, it would be a better approach than backhauling all of this traffic to a security stack that might have sat inside a corporate network. Don't do that anymore. In fact, given the COVID era, people aren't sitting in that building behind that physical security stack anyway. They're working from home. So the cloud was just kind of the best way to do it.
Yeah, David and I, we just went over this in our previous episode of the importance of this cloud area network, how it's changing cybersecurity as we speak, and it is compact with use cases, right? Tell us a little bit about for the broader audience, right? We've got cybersecurity students, we have MSPs. They tune in because they're not security practitioners like you and David. So kind of take us through, from secure internet access to private access and desktop access, the various use cases.
Sure. Yeah. So I'll start with secure internet access, and I'll give you a common use case. You mentioned students, right? So a lot of the networks in the educational vertical have a need for secure web gateway technology or URL filtering technology. In fact, if you think about like K through 12, there's a thing called CIPA, Child Information Protection Act. And there's a need to make sure that students and others are limited to what they can access, right?
Sure.
So you don't want to have a school system with kindergartens going to adult websites, for example. So you need to have some sort of security controls in place, call it secure web gateways or URL filtering technology that goes through that and inspects what websites the user is actually trying to go to and then determines whether it's allowed or not. It's a very simple use case. It's been around for a long, long time. And how do you do that in this era where even your students are working from home, right? So what do? Do you connect
on school provided devices, no less.
provided devices like Chromebooks and things like that?
Right.
So how do you keep that infrastructure that you built prior to students now working from home connected and in place and such that traffic flows through it? So that's one use case. One thing you could do is actually have those students connect back to the school so that the traffic goes out of the physical appliances that you might have purchased in the past. It's one way of doing it, but you're going to add a bunch of other problems if you do that with more and more students being remote, performance problems, capacity problems, et cetera. So with this solution, those students can actually connect to our cloud wherever they may be. Let's say that one day that they're in California, they'll get connected to a point of presence in California, but if they're in, say, New York City, they're going to get connected to a point of presence in New York City. And that secure web gateway technology doesn't exist physically just in the school in California. It exists all over the world in this cloud industry. So it's better performance, better scale. If you need more capacity, if the school needs more capacity, they have more students coming online, they can just virtually dial up more capacity. They don't have to like rip and replace and put another box in. That's
and the other thing that I was just thinking about, JP, in that model, I live in Brentwood, Tennessee, and in Williamson County, there's probably between K through 12, there's probably 100 schools, right? And each one of them have to have infrastructure and tool sets to protect those 100 schools. Imagine if we put all of them on one cloud area network, and now you have one set of controls across all your school system. That'd be huge.
Yeah, I mean, just the policy management and administration of it
exactly
is a lot simpler when you move to this cloud environment versus the old model, right? Again, the old model, you said 100 schools or whatever in the county or what have you. I'd have to put these 100 appliances in
That's
every
right.
one school
That's
system.
Right.
And then I'm going to ask the vendor that's providing that for some sort of centralized management tool.
Which probably doesn't exist.
Exactly. So it gets really hairy and complicated when you try to do that. That's one use case of kind of securing traffic out to the internet for schools. But there could be another use case where the security administrator of an enterprise organization is struggling with trying to figure out what to allow and what to block, right? So it's easy to go in and set up policy based on categories like, well, I'm going to disallow gambling sites and disallow pornography sites. And that's great. And I've got this model where I'm specifically saying allow this and deny that. But there's also the problem of the unknown, right? So it's a website. It's not in a category yet. I've never heard of it. It was just registered yesterday. Therefore, I don't really trust it because I've never seen it before. No one's ever seen it before. Do you allow that or do you disallow that? And if you disallow it, you can introduce some sort of productivity issues. And next thing you know, the IT guy or gal is going to get a phone call and say, hey, can you open up a policy to let me access this thing because I'm trying to do it for work?
Right.
And if you open that up, the flip side of that is you could be introducing some sort of security risk because it's unknown. I don't know if it's good or bad. I just opened it up because someone asked me to, but it could be a malware site or what have you. So one of the use cases we have is protecting the unknown. And we do that by way of a technology called remote browser isolation. And I won't get into the techie details of how that works, but imagine your computer actually not visiting the unknown website. Imagine there's this remote browser in our cloud that actually visits the website on your behalf and just sends you kind of a visual representation of what that site looks like.
That's brilliant, by the way. Yeah. So
that's another use case of basically protecting access to the web.
So this might be a silly question, but did remote browser isolation exist before you came up with your version? Is that out there?
It did, and it was kind of in its infancy in the a few years ago. It's now started to catch on and become more popular. And there's other vendors that are now doing that. How you do that is very complicated. There's some uniqueness that we've done in our platform to make it easier for a security administrator to like manage it. It comes down to like, I don't know how to set the policy for the unknown. So we've actually built something on my watch called Intelligent Remote Browser Isolation. That's a little different. That's unique to us. And what Intelligent Remote Browser Isolation is the system is actually monitoring and profiling the sites that you're visiting to determine if it's unknown or not, right? So it'll do some things on the back end that says, hey, this website was just registered yesterday, therefore it has a risk score of, 99 out of 100.
Right.
Something. It's very risky. It was just registered yesterday. There's no SSL certificate on the site. Anyway, it does all these different checks, and it'll say, basically, we're going to put this site in isolation for you. You don't even have to think about it, because our system has actually kind of went through these checks and said, yep, pretty risky site. Mm-hmm. So that's a unique kind of thing that we do that it was introduced on my watch.
Well, and why that's brilliant is our end customers don't have to know. They type in a URL, they go to the website. It all happens behind the scenes. And Suzanne, one of the questions you asked is, how long has this been around? It's been around for a little while, but it's been difficult to implement. Mm-hmm. You had to have, go back to JP's model earlier, you had to have an infrastructure at every place you wanted to do this. In this cloud area network, as long as I'm on the cloud area network, I can do this without buying 10 servers for 10 sites, right? And then trying to manage that. I put it out there, I set the policy, and I let it run.
Yeah, in the past, when remote browser isolation kind of first came out, it was using the old school appliance model where I buy this remote browser isolation appliance thing and I put it in my office, right? Well, that's great if everybody's in the office and their traffic.
Exactly.
Do that, right?
Yeah.
But what we're trying to do is take that technology, put it in the cloud. Early technologies in this space, it didn't perform well. People tried it, they did a POC on it, and like, yeah, I get the concept, but in reality, doesn't work for me because it's too slow, right? I'm in California and I'm connecting to a POP in New York just to get to a website that's hosted in California, right? What if you could eliminate that whole thing and then drop all this stuff on the cloud and just attach your device to the cloud? And if I'm in California, I exit in California. If I'm in New York, I exit New York. Performance starts to be a lot better. So one of the things that we built is a global cloud infrastructure with points of presence all over the world, from London to Tokyo to San Francisco, and users just connect and it just works, and they don't notice any performance or problems or latency or anything like that.
Mm-hmm. So what from the cloud area network could MSPs today rip and replace current solutions, security solutions they have?
Yeah, the first thing that I tend to think about is the very first problem I was trying to solve when I created this. At the beginning of the call, when you asked me to kind of take you back to like why I even created this thing, I was trying to solve a connectivity problem even before the COVID issues came out. And that connectivity problem was really about trying to replace VPN technology, right? VPN technology was all about connect a device to a network, and then now I have kind of full access to the network. And we've all kind of heard about the breaches where, there's a machine that got connected to the corporate network via VPN. That machine sitting at home or whatever got infected. And then the ransomware kind of rode that VPN tunnel back to the corporate network. And then next thing you know, ransomware everywhere, right? So that was a problem I was trying to solve. I think that's the easiest solution to introduce into the market right now, because more organizations are knowledgeable of this problem than they were a few years ago when I started building this. And they're looking to replace their VPN with a zero trust model. So zero trust network access is not about connecting a device to a network. It's all about connecting a user to an application. So once the user attaches to the cloud area network, there's policies that say, okay, well, user David can access this one thing and that's it. And if user David happens to be infected, theoretically, the only one thing that could spread to is the one thing he's allowed access to, not the totality of the whole network.
Right.
Yeah, so this is an all-in-one solution. It's not like people have to, if anyone is interested in this, they're grabbing one use case within CAN or within the cloud area network. They get it all, correct?
It's a full stack security solution, all the way from a built-in, remote browser isolation thing to a built-in firewall to a built-in intrusion prevention system to a built-in antivirus scanning gateway. I call it a full stack security solution in the cloud. So imagine in the physical network, you had all of these different appliances stacked up, or maybe you went to the UTM model and got rid of a stack of appliances, right, to an all-in-one, UTM.
FortiGate,
Yeah. Perfect example, right? To now taking kind of that same concept but moving it to the cloud. It's very much like, now I used to be a big kind of a stereo system guy, right? I bought my Kenwood stereo and my Pioneer, 8-track back in the day, and I had my turntables, and I had a stack of gear to basically have, a nice sound system. And then what happened is, like, Bose came along and had this all-in-one, sound system that you could do all of that stuff on. And then now the next evolution of that is to put it somewhere else, all in one, but done in the cloud. Now I don't have to turn on everything if I don't want to. I can just turn on this feature, that feature, whatever, but the stack is all in one, yes.
So you created the next gen Bose for cybersecurity.
Bose in the cloud, yeah.
Bose
like
in the cloud.
Audio streaming or something like that, yeah.
I like that. Yes. Well, we're talking to a genius, it seems like. Right, David?
No, not me.
No, I'm not saying. I need your agreement.
Oh yeah, totally agree.
No, this is great. We've been talking about this, our Overwatch team, and we've been getting great feedback. And to someone like me, it makes a lot of sense as well. So, David, any last question? Or
yeah, so the question is that it wasn't a question; it was more of a statement. The thing to keep in mind, folks, is there are a couple of other vendors out here who are trying to catch up to where JP's at and where we're at with this solution. I think one of the biggest things you'll run into is it's either all or nothing with them. And two, the price point for some of these other solutions is 2x, 2.5x what we're coming in at. We didn't want to break the bank to give you better. We wanted to give you better for a shift in spend or a nominal increase, or maybe in some cases a slight reduction.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, you're getting that single pane of glass for our security team to manage all of this capability for you. So great product, great future. JP, JP and I are longtime friends, but love the product, love where we're going. And this year is going to be a lot of fun getting there.
And I'll say one other thing in closing. When I started building this product, I saw a couple problems. One, the problem of people working more and more remotely, but I also saw the skill set gap problem in the cybersecurity industry. So as I was building this new product, I said, let me build it in a way that I don't have to introduce it to a market that doesn't have skill to operate it. Let me build it in a way that's designed so that MSSPs and MSPs can actually manage it for their customers who don't have the skill set. So there's a lot of the technology. We can talk about all the remote browser isolation and fancy zero trust network access stuff that we do. But there's another aspect to the product that I created that makes it appealing to MSSPs and MSPs such that they can do this for their customers because they know that their customers don't have the skill set. So again, thinking about the analogy of a K through 12 school system, trying to manage 100 schools, where do you go get the skill set for that? Well, the answer is don't try. Go leverage folks at Highwire to do that. So we're really excited to have the partnership of the technology we provided with the partnership with you guys to take this to market, because I think taking my technology, which could be all fancy and great and cool and all that, but it would be useless if no one could use it. And
that's right.
I'm happy to work with you guys to help our customers and your customers manage the offering.
Well said. Well, thank you. Thank you so much, JP, the inventor of ZTEdge, which is an Ericom product, a business line. If you have feedback about today's podcast or questions for David, JP, or myself, please contact us at podcast@highwirenetworks.com or just leave a comment there. And be sure to join us for our next episode, How IT Firms Are Making the Transition to Security, with guest host, CEO and founder of MSP Alliance, Charles Weaver. Until next time, I'm Susanna Song.
And I'm Dave Barton.
And this is Cybersecurity Simplified. From all of us here at Overwatch by Highwire Networks, thank you for listening. We'll catch you next time on the Cybersecurity Simplified podcast. To learn more, visit us at highwirenetworks.com/podcast.